It's a very traumatic, difficult, challenging injury, not only for the person who's injured, but for the entire family.
If you've suffered a burn injury, what should you know about filing a case? We're going to talk to attorney Michelle West about that on today's Ask the Lawyer. Michelle, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
What are some of the most common burn injuries that you've seen at your firm?
So we handle catastrophic injuries, and unfortunately, the burn injuries that I've seen are horrific mostly third degree injuries, and they result often from a product defect. It could be a defective paint can, a paint sprayer. Often it's vehicle collisions. We have trucking cases where we've represented truck drivers who were in a crash and then were trapped inside the cab of their vehicle. So the burn injuries we see are horrific. They often result in a life flight or ambulance and then an induced coma for several months while the medical personnel tries to save limbs. And often there's limb loss involved if it's a very catastrophic burn injuries. It's depending on where the burn injuries are, it could result in a lifetime of medical care. The scarring might require revision surgeries, skin grafts, and it is just truly a horrific injury to deal with. And it needs to be evaluated carefully with a terrific medical teams so that you make sure you understand what all the future medical needs are of the clients.
And what makes a burn injury different than other types of personal injuries?
That's a great question. I think in my experience dealing with clients with burn injuries, uh, it is really the loss of function and also the constant reminder from the disfigurement of the burn injuries. Sometimes the pain and the scarring, it continues, it doesn't go away. And then there's always the need for another a revision surgery, more skin grafting, and the disfigurement from that, not only in the area where the burn happened, but also on other areas of the body where the healthy skin is taken to be utilized as a graft for the portion of the skin that's injured. So it's a very traumatic, difficult, challenging injury, not only for the person who's injured, but for the entire family. The entire family often will need counseling. The victim will need counseling often. And also the daily reminder from seeing the scarring and disfigurement can take a real psychological toll.
And that being one of the lasting issues that people can experience, what are some of the other longer issues after they initially healed that they might experience?
Well, if the scar and revision surgeries, that is something that may continue and go on for years and years. And the tightening from the scarring can affect their ability, the injured person's ability to do things such as, put on their own clothes, use their hands to button their shirt. And every time they have to go back for another revision surgery or to allow more flexibility or mobility in the body part, that's downtime away from work, that's downtime away from loved ones. And it's also just it's a re-traumatizing from the original injury producing event. So that's something I've seen that really requires, just a knowledge of what these victims go through, what they're likely to go through in the future. So that it's important for attorneys to know that and remember that, so that when they're putting together a life care plan, you work with the best qualified life care planners so that they consider all the future hospitalizations and the future needs for the burn victims.
And how do these types of injuries happen in workplaces? And does workers' comp adequately cover people for this?
That's a great question. So, work comp is a system that we have that does cover some loss of earnings for a certain period of time. It does cover medical expenses related to the injury if it was suffered in the course of the person doing work. So it is a great way to get medical treatment right away. However, it does not always provide the optimal level of care, and it does not always cover all the needs for an injured person. So, in the work comp system, which is an administrative system, there are certain damages that can be received. And the civil system, which is I'm a civil lawyer and I go to a courthouse, there are other damages that are available to an injured victim. So while work comp does a great job in getting immediate care, often if it's a covered injury, in the civil side, if we can find other potential tortfeasors and if we're able to obtain recovery, then we can get more and greater benefits for the injured person. For example, general damages, which are available in the civil system and not available in workers' compensation system.
What about if a person was burned by a defective piece of equipment or maybe a defective household product?
Sure. In that situation, there would likely be an ongoing work comp case if a worker was burned by a product and it happened at work. So they would go through the work comp system, and that would help them get immediate care and some replacement of wages. And at the same time, the work comp attorney would then find, or the injured worker would find, a qualified product defect attorney. That's part of the work I do, is to analyze if there's a defective product. Was there something about the product that was dangerous and defective, whether in design, manufacture, or warning? And if there was some defect in that product, did it cause or contribute to the injuries that were suffered? If that happens, then there may be a case. If a case is pursued, both the work comp claim and the civil case for a product liability defect can be done at the same time. And both can provide recovery for the injured person.
And what should somebody do if they're not sure if they have a claim?
I would definitely recommend calling a lawyer. A lawyer is the person who is going to be able to help an injured person. I certainly know before I went to law school and before I was a lawyer, I would have no idea. I now know, after doing this for 20 years and going through law school, being a lawyer for a long time, evaluating hundreds, maybe thousands of cases, that a lawyer is needed to evaluate the case. And the consultation and evaluation is often free if it's a personal injury case, if it's a product defect case, even if it's a trucking case. Personal injury lawyers, product defect lawyers want to help. That's why they got into the business, and they can take the information and evaluate it for free. And if the injured person decides they want to hire the lawyer will often do it on a contingency fee basis at no upfront charge to the injured person, so they can go on with their life and not have to worry about getting bills from a lawyer. And if there's a recovery, then the money just comes out from that settlement or verdict at the end of the case.
Michelle West, thanks for talking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Michelle West. If you want to ask her about your situation, call the number on the screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Molly Hendrickson for Ask the Lawyers.